So Ivanka Trump well, she's in the White House. She does something. I don't exactly know what job she actually does, but she is supposed to not be involved in the Trump businesses while she's actually in the White House. Now, that's interesting because what we've learned from previous stories is that she still is, or at least was until recently, involved in a lot of her businesses. Now, why is that? Why is that important right now? Other than, of course, the obvious conflicts of interest and corruption. Well, the reason that it's back in the news is that she recently, and this is while we're in the midst of a trade war with China, just received some patents from China. Now, this is according to HuffPost. White House advisor Ivanka Trump has just recently won preliminary approval from China for an additional 16 business trademarks. Now, we just found out about this. This actually happened last month. Now, this is according to Chinese records released by Citizens for Ethics and Responsibility in Washington. Now, what's interesting is I mentioned before, she shut down her fashion brand back in July, or at least announced it. Now, she could have just transferred the trademarks, right? And she still could. And she could relaunch her fashion business. Now, the Washington Post reported at the time that she still, even though she said she was shutting this down, that she was still planning to get these patents. Now, Richard Painter, chief White House ethics lawyer for former President George W. Bush, told the Post back then, quote, "She's dissolving the company now, but is continuing to get trademarks so she can sell her stuff all over the world later." Now, what better time to get those trademarks than now, when every government around the world wants to play nice with their father? That is an excellent question and an excellent observation. Of course, this is the time. This is the time where she's like, yeah, of course, I'm going to use my position and my dad's position to benefit me in business later. No, wait, you're actually not supposed to do that. Well, there's a lot of things that the Trump family does that they're not supposed to do. So now, fast forward today to the Cruz statement. They said that since Trump has retained her foreign trademarks, the public will continue to have to ask whether President Trump has made foreign policy decisions in the interest of his and his family's businesses. Now, to that I say, of course he has. That's all this presidency is there for, is to make Donald Trump money. This is to make the Trump empire and the Trump family business more money. And look, I actually think that originally Trump was like, yeah, I'm going to run for president. I'm going to lose, but I'm going to get so much free publicity that it's actually going to help my business. He did not count on winning. And then when he won, he's like, shit. I won the presidency. What do I do? Oh, I know. I'm going to help myself to the Chinese market. I'm going to help myself to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to help myself to all these different countries because now I'm president. Who's going to stop me? And that's exactly the question. Right now, nobody can stop you. Unless, of course, Republicans lose the Senate and the House. But anyway. Now, they also mention that granting the latest trademarks could also be viewed as a way for China to curry favor with the Trump administration, basically to try to get us to end the trade war. Now, in May, Ivanka Trump's business won approval for at least 5 Chinese trademarks just days before the president announced plans to help lift U.S. sanctions on Chinese cell phone manufacturer ZTE. And I talked about that. I covered that. And, of course, that story also had the appearance of corruption, because it absolutely was. Now, coinciding with that, you also had the president's, you also had a theme park, right? The developer of a theme park near Jakarta in Indonesia with a Trump licensing agreement, also signing a deal for up to $500 million in Chinese government loans. So all that is connected with Donald Trump. He's using this office to benefit himself and his businesses. And his family is doing the same exact thing. Now, the first daughter's business was also granted 3 new Chinese trademarks last year, in the same day she dined with President Xi Jinping. If it wasn't obvious enough before, she got 3 patents as soon as she sat down with dinner with the Chinese president. It is corruption. It is corruption. Absolutely 100%. Now, these latest trademarks include shoes, wedding dresses, jewelry, nursing homes, sausage casings, and this final one is important, voting machines. She's got a patent for voting machines. Now imagine getting those patents from China to sell in China. Then also consider the possibility that if Donald Trump wins in 2020 and Republicans retain control of House and Senate, and, she gets those manufacturing of those voting machines up and running, I wonder who would buy those voting machines. Could it be states that maybe are linked with Trump? Trump allies? I don't know. Maybe. Would you trust voting on a Trump voting machine? I wouldn't. Now, many of these trademarks, by the way, will be active until 2028, according to Crew. And so, look, this is a big example of why the Trump family is getting in trouble with the emoluments clause. Which, by the way, that lawsuit is actually scheduled to go forward. So, look, it's fairly obvious. This whole entire family is deeply corrupt. Deeply corrupt and deeply problematic. And it didn't start with Ivanka. The head, of course, I should say the fish rots from the head down. So what they learned from daddy. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.